Harry Potter has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. Even as I grew older and began to notice the cracks in its world, the inconsistencies, the unanswered questions, the essence of the story still holds a deep meaning for me. There's something timeless about its messages of love, sacrifice, and the ever-present dance between light and darkness. Not long ago, I stumbled upon a video about Sirius Black. It brought back an old feeling, one I had when I first read about his death. A sense of something unfinished. Sirius meant so much to Harry, and yet his death felt too sudden, leaving no time for closure. I found myself imagining a different ending. What if Sirius had written Harry a letter before his death? What if he had sensed the end was near and wanted to leave behind his thoughts and memories for Harry to discover? But then my mind drifted to someone else, someone whose story has always fascinated me far more deeply. Severus Snape. A character whose complexity goes beyond the pages, who embodies layers of emotion, secrecy, and conflict. I wondered, what if he had left something behind? A diary, perhaps, where he had recorded his thoughts during the moments we know so well from the books. What would he have said about Harry, about the battles he fought in silence, from the shadows? And so, I began to imagine. Slowly, a diary took shape. Snape's private reflections, never meant to be seen by another soul. This is the result of that imagining, a glimpse into the mind of one of literature's most enigmatic figures. The first sight of him, September 1st, 1991. I do not know why I begin this. Perhaps it is foolishness, a rare indulgence of the sentiment I claim to despise. Yet there are things I cannot say aloud, truths I dare not whisper even to myself. Words have weight, and in the solitude of these pages, they may find their place, away from prying eyes, away from judgment. Perhaps, too, there is a need to set something in order. Life, in all its cruelty, has twisted my purpose into something I barely recognize. What once was clear, revenge, bitterness, duty, has become a tangled knot of obligation and regret. Writing, perhaps, can unravel what cannot be spoken, but let there be no illusion. These words are mine and mine alone. They will never be read by another, not while I draw breath. This diary is not meant for others, not for some future revelation, but simply to make sense of the shifting sands I stand upon. A place to admit what I cannot elsewhere, that there are moments when I am unsure of the man I have become. And now, he has arrived. That boy, the boy who bears the name I have loathed for so many years. I must write, because if I do not, these thoughts may well poison me from within. They must be purged, if only here, where the ink bleeds in silence. The moment he crossed the threshold of the great hall, I knew. There was no mistaking it. The messy black hair, the thin frame, the startled expression of a child pulled into a world far greater than himself. It was as though a ghost had walked in wearing the skin of another. James Potter. Yet, not him. How cruel time can be, playing tricks on the mind, allowing me to glimpse that face, one that has haunted me for years, and yet to be betrayed by it in the next instant. But those eyes. Lily's eyes. Her softness, her warmth, gazing back at me through this boy. A boy who knows nothing of the past he embodies, the wounds he carries without ever having earned them. There's something almost infuriating about that innocence. He stands there oblivious while the weight of 100 ghosts bear down on me. I watch as the others look at him, starstruck. The boy who lived, they say, as though that title means anything in this hall of stone and shadow. They think him a savior, a promise of light against the dark days to come. But I know what he truly is. James reborn, the arrogant swagger waiting just beneath the surface. Already, he's worshipped, already crowned in their hearts. And I am once more condemned to play the role of the shadow that lingers behind. But those eyes, they will be the undoing of me. I wonder bitterly if I will ever see anything in him beyond the clash of memory and resentment. How long can I wear this mask, pretend that I do not loathe him for what he represents, for what he will never understand? And yet I feel it. The pull. It is Lily's blood, after all, that runs through his veins, and it will not let me rest. There is no peace for me, not with him here. I will protect him, as I must, but the cost will be heavier than he will ever know. He will think me his enemy, and perhaps in many ways, I am. But, in truth, I have been his protector long before he ever set foot in this castle. Even now, as I write, I wonder what she would say if she could see me, guarding him from the shadows, despising him for what he cannot help. Perhaps this is my penance. Perhaps it always has been. The Boy in Potions, September 2nd, 1991. I knew it would be like this. The moment he stepped into the dungeon, I felt the air shift. His presence draws attention, commands it, even without effort. The others watch him, expectantly, foolishly, waiting for him to live up to the legend they've built in their minds. The boy who lived, they call him, but I see only a boy, unremarkable in every way except for the weight of his name. Our first class together played out as I expected. He was inattentive, distracted, just as his father had been. When I addressed him, there was no spark of intellect, no sign of the brilliance his mother had shown in this very room so many years ago. The disappointment is sharper than I care to admit, though I would never allow it to show. He didn't know the answer to even the simplest of questions. Monkshood and wolfsbane, common knowledge to any student worth their salt, and yet the boy had not even the courtesy to try. A wave of smug resentment rose within me as I asked, my voice cold and deliberate. He stood there, eyes wide and lost, while his peers watched. There was no sign of her in his performance, none of the keen mind that once graced this classroom. Instead, there was only James, arrogant in his ignorance, staring back at me as though I were the one in the wrong. How easily the others came to his defense, as if his failings could be excused by the shadow of his fame. I did what I had to do, cut him down, reminded him of his place. It had to be done. They need to see that he is no different from the rest. And yet, it is impossible not to feel the sting of my own actions. The look in his eyes, that flash of confusion, almost fear, Lily's eyes. They are there every time I turn toward him. I saw them widen in hurt when my words struck him. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw her reflected in him again. But no, this is not her. This is Potter. This is the boy I will have to contend with for years to come, the boy I am bound to protect. But I cannot, will not, allow him to glide through this life on the strength of a name. I must remind myself that cruelty is a necessary tool, a lesson he must learn. Still, there is something else, a hesitation within me that I cannot explain. I tell myself that it is simply the weight of the past, that my contempt for his father's memory poisons my every interaction with him. But there is more. The boy's ignorance does not match his fame. He does not know, does not understand the world that has prepared itself for him. How much of that is his fault, and how much the fault of those who surround him? And why does that fact unsettle me so? There will be more lessons, more opportunities to show him the harshness of reality. But today, as I sit alone in this cold, silent dungeon, I wonder if I have underestimated him, and whether that will be my undoing. After the Stone, July 1992. The castle is quiet now. The dungeons, colder than ever. The last of the students have gone, the halls echoing with an emptiness that somehow makes this place feel even more alive. The echoes of their laughter, their fear, their whispers still linger. But now, at last, I am left with my thoughts. Harry Potter is gone. And yet, even with him miles away, his presence lingers, as it always does. This was supposed to be the year he stumbled, this fragile child, thrust into the world of magic, meant to fail like any other. And yet he triumphed, or so they say. He, the boy who knows nothing, who understands even less, somehow managed to navigate dangers far beyond his comprehension. No, not somehow. The answer, as always, is simple. Luck. Nothing more. Just as he survived the killing curse, he survives this, purely by chance. It was never about him, not truly. The real power, the real danger lay in Quirrell. I saw it from the start, felt the wrongness of him the moment he set foot in these halls. But no one listened, of course. Dumbledore, with his ever-infallible wisdom, let things run their course. Perhaps he thought it was a lesson I needed to learn, to let the child prove his worth. But I know better. This was a game of fate, one I am forced to play alongside a boy who knows nothing of the stakes. The stone was never truly at risk, not with Dumbledore watching over it. But that does not make what happened any less significant. Potter, Granger, and that Weasley boy, they were mere children, stumbling through the traps set for far greater minds. And yet they succeeded. How much of that is their doing, and how much is Dumbledore's hand guiding them through the dark? Harry. Always Harry. The castle buzzed with talk of him, of his bravery, his courage, his reckless pursuit of answers. But they see none of the truth. They do not see the shadows that gather around him, the dangers that lurk just beneath the surface. I watched him, as I always do, thinking of the past, of the promise I made, and the burden I carry. He has no idea what he's done, no understanding of the peril he narrowly avoided. But I know. I know the forces that stir around him. It is only the beginning, and somehow, despite everything, I cannot shake the feeling that it will always be him. He will always be at the center of this. He will never be free from it. Nor will I. I saved him, though he will never know. He will never see the truth of it, that I was there, guarding him from the shadows, fighting to protect him, even as I long to rid myself of the memory he carries in his eyes. That night in the forest, when I watched Quirrell make his move, my hatred of him became something colder, more calculating. I wanted to protect the boy, as I must. But there was something else. A terrible clarity. It is not enough to protect him from the dangers outside these walls. I must protect him from himself, from his own foolish bravery, from his ignorance. He is not ready for what is to come, not in the slightest. But I cannot tell him. He would not listen. Lily's eyes, always watching, always waiting. I feel them now, even as I write. They accuse, they remind me of the promises I've made and the ones I've broken. The castle may be quiet now, but it will not stay that way. He will return. They all will. And I must be ready for him, for whatever trials he brings with him. I have no choice. My fate is bound to his, and I fear there is no escape from it. As I reflect on these first entries, a quiet sadness lingers. Snape's words, though sharp and often cold, reveal the deeper currents beneath his actions, a man bound by promises, by grief, by the weight of a past that never truly releases him. Through his eyes, we see Harry's journey unfold, not just as the story of a boy discovering his destiny, but as something far more complex. These diary entries offer us a glimpse into a mind that holds more than hatred, more than bitterness, a mind that is constantly observing, protecting, and, in his own way, caring. This is only the beginning. As Harry's story continues, so too will these reflections from Severus Snape. I will continue exploring the years to come, unraveling the layers of this extraordinary character as he watches over Harry, often from the shadows, often misunderstood. With each new challenge Harry faces, Snape's inner world deepens, his role becoming more critical, more personal than anyone ever imagined. Thank you for stepping into this hidden world with me. There are still many moments to uncover, many thoughts that were never spoken aloud. Together, we will continue this journey, and perhaps, by the end, we will see Snape in a way that we never have before.